6-year-old Ethan Rodriguez was walking with his family through downtown Denver when the overwhelming sensory input from city noise, crowds, and flashing lights triggered an autism meltdown that caused him to bolt away from his parents and run directly toward the busy intersection of 16th and Broadway, where rush-hour traffic moved at deadly speeds. Ethan's autism made him unable to process danger warnings or respond to his parents' desperate calls, while his single-minded focus on escaping the sensory overload led him straight into the path of oncoming vehicles whose drivers had no time to react to a small child suddenly appearing in their traffic lanes. But Milo, Ethan's specially trained autism service dog, immediately activated his emergency intervention protocols when he realized his boy was heading towards certain death in traffic that showed no mercy to children who couldn't understand the concept of automotive danger. For the next 3 minutes, Milo executed a complex series of actions that included alerting bystanders, creating human barriers, and coordinating an impromptu rescue chain that would prove some emergencies require 4-legged professionals who can turn strangers into lifesavers when autism creates crisis situations that parents can't control alone. Welcome to Saved by Tales. Before we dive into this incredible story of specialized training meeting urban crisis, and a service dog's ability to mobilize an entire city block when autism-related behaviors threaten to claim an innocent life, join our community of animal hero enthusiasts who understand that some of our most sophisticated emergency response systems walk on 4 paws and never take a break from protecting those who need them most. The Rodriguez family had planned their Denver shopping trip carefully, choosing off-peak hours and familiar routes to minimize the sensory challenges that urban environments posed for 6-year-old Ethan, whose autism made crowded, noisy places overwhelming and potentially dangerous without proper support. "Ethan handles downtown pretty well when we plan ahead and keep trips short," explained his mother, Maria Rodriguez. But autism means that even the best planning can't prevent meltdowns when sensory input becomes too much for him to process. Milo, Ethan's 3-year-old golden retriever, had been specially trained as an autism service dog with expertise in interrupting dangerous behaviors, providing deep pressure therapy during meltdowns, and most importantly, preventing elopement situations where Ethan might run into traffic or other hazards. Milo isn't just Ethan's companion, noted his father, David Rodriguez. He's a piece of specialized medical equipment that can recognize when Ethan is becoming overwhelmed and intervene before dangerous behaviors develop. The downtown Denver area presented multiple sensory challenges, including traffic noise, construction sounds, crowd movements, and visual stimulation that could trigger autism-related responses, even in children who were generally well-regulated. Ethan's meltdown began gradually as the family walked along 16th Street, with increasing agitation and stimming behaviors that indicated growing sensory distress, despite Milo's calming presence and his parents' attempts to provide supportive redirection. "Too loud, too many people," Ethan said repeatedly, using the limited verbal communication that his autism allowed during stressful situations. Milo immediately recognized the escalation pattern and began positioning himself to provide deep pressure therapy and blocking techniques that could help Ethan regulate his sensory input and prevent the situation from progressing to dangerous elopement behaviors. But the sensory environment was too overwhelming for Ethan's processing capabilities, with construction noise from a nearby building project adding unexpected auditory assault to an already challenging urban environment. When a city bus backfired loudly just 20 feet from the family, Ethan's fight-or-flight response was triggered instantly, overriding his parents' supervision and Milo's preventive interventions. Ethan's bolt toward traffic was sudden and determined, demonstrating the speed and single-minded focus that made autism elopement behaviors so dangerous for children who couldn't process traffic safety concepts or respond to parental commands during crisis situations. "Ethan, stop," Maria called desperately as her son ran directly toward the busy intersection where afternoon traffic posed fatal dangers to anyone who entered the roadway unexpectedly. Milo's response was immediate and professional, activating emergency protocols that his specialized training had prepared him for when Ethan's autism created life-threatening situations that required intervention beyond normal service dog responsibilities. The golden retriever began barking in a specific pattern designed to alert bystanders to an autism emergency, while simultaneously pursuing Ethan toward the intersection, where vehicles traveled too fast to stop for a small child. "There's a kid running into traffic," shouted construction worker Miguel Santos, who had been alerted by Milo's distinctive emergency barking and immediately understood that intervention was needed to prevent a tragedy. Milo's emergency communication strategy involved systematic alerts to multiple bystanders who could help create barriers between Ethan and the deadly traffic that threatened his life at the busy downtown intersection. The golden retriever's barking pattern was specifically designed to communicate autism emergency to people who might not understand the situation, while his positioning and movement guided potential helpers toward the most effective intervention points. "That dog is trying to tell us something," observed office worker Jennifer Chen, who had been walking to her car when Milo's urgent barking caught her attention and led her to spot Ethan heading toward the intersection. Street vendor Carlos Martinez immediately understood the emergency when he saw Milo's behavior and Ethan's trajectory toward traffic, abandoning his food cart to join the growing group of strangers who were being mobilized by the service dog's alert system. "Kid's gonna get hit," Carlos called as he began moving to intercept Ethan's path, while Milo continued coordinating the impromptu rescue effort through his systematic communication with bystanders. Milo's emergency protocols included creating human barriers that could safely redirect Ethan away from traffic without triggering additional autism responses that might make the situation more dangerous for everyone involved. Construction worker Miguel positioned himself at the corner, while office worker Jennifer approached from the side, creating intersection points that could safely contain Ethan without causing panic that might drive him further into the street. "Easy, buddy," Miguel said softly, as he prepared to intercept Ethan's movement, understanding from Milo's positioning that this was a special needs emergency, requiring gentle intervention rather than aggressive restraint. Milo continued his coordination role by positioning himself to guide Ethan's movement toward the human helpers, while maintaining communication with additional bystanders who joined the rescue effort. Street vendor Carlos used his cart to create a physical barrier at the street edge, while other passers-by formed a loose circle that could contain Ethan's movement without creating the sensory overload that might worsen his autism response. Despite the growing human barrier, Ethan's autism-driven determination carried him into the intersection's edge, where traffic posed immediate and fatal danger to anyone who couldn't understand automotive hazards or respond to driver warnings. The first vehicle to encounter Ethan was a delivery truck, whose driver, Rosa Martinez, immediately recognized the emergency and activated her hazard lights while using her vehicle to create a protective barrier between the boy and oncoming traffic. "There's a little kid in the street," Rosa radioed to other drivers on her CB system, creating an additional alert network that helped coordinate traffic response to the autism emergency. Milo's positioning at this critical moment was crucial. The golden retriever positioned himself between Ethan and the most dangerous traffic lanes, while maintaining his emergency barking to alert drivers who might not yet have seen the small child. "Good boy, keep him safe," called Maria Rodriguez, as she and David finally reached the intersection where strangers and their service dog were working together to protect their son from traffic that could kill instantly. The emergency situation at 16th and Broadway created an impromptu traffic management system coordinated by drivers who had been alerted to Ethan's presence through Milo's communication network and citizen coordination. Delivery driver Rosa used her truck to block the most dangerous traffic lane, while taxi driver Ahmad Hassan positioned his vehicle to create additional protection, turning the intersection into a temporarily safer space where Ethan could be safely retrieved. "We got him covered," Ahmad called to the Rodriguez family, as professional drivers created a protective vehicle barrier that gave ground-level rescuers the time and space needed to safely approach Ethan without triggering additional autism responses. City bus driver Patricia Wong had also been alerted to the emergency and used her larger vehicle to create a broader protective zone, demonstrating how Milo's alert system had mobilized professional drivers into a coordinated rescue effort. The traffic coordination allowed ground-level helpers to approach Ethan safely while minimizing the sensory triggers that could worsen his autism response and create additional dangers. With traffic safely managed and human helpers properly positioned, Milo guided the final approach to Ethan using techniques specifically designed for autism emergency situations where traditional restraint methods could escalate rather than resolve the crisis. Construction worker Miguel approached Ethan slowly and calmly, using the gentle techniques that Milo's positioning had communicated were necessary for safely managing autism-related behaviors during emergency situations. "Hey there, buddy," Miguel said softly, as he knelt beside Ethan, who had become still once he reached what his autism processing perceived as a safe distance from the overwhelming sensory environment that had triggered his elopement. Milo immediately provided deep pressure therapy by leaning against Ethan, offering the sensory input that could help regulate his autism responses and prevent additional flight behaviors during the rescue process. "Milo, good boy, Milo," Ethan said as his service dog's familiar presence helped him begin processing the emergency situation and recognize that safety had been restored through the coordinated efforts of strangers who had become temporary protectors. Ethan's safe return to his parents was emotional and overwhelming, with Maria and David Rodriguez expressing profound gratitude to the strangers who had responded to Milo's emergency coordination and risked their own safety to protect their son. "You saved Ethan's life," Maria told the group of helpers as she embraced her son, who was now calm and regulated with Milo's continued support. "All of you became heroes because of what this dog communicated to you." The impromptu rescue team began to understand the sophistication of what they had just experienced. A service dog had turned them into an emergency response network using communication skills and coordination techniques that none of them had encountered before. "That dog organized all of us like a military operation," observed Miguel Santos. "He knew exactly how to get each person to help in the right way at the right time." Ethan's condition was stable and uninjured, with his autism responses beginning to normalize as Milo provided continued therapeutic support, and the overwhelming sensory environment was replaced by calm interaction with people who understood his needs. Milo's emergency coordination became a case study for autism service dog training programs and emergency response protocols, demonstrating capabilities that exceeded typical service dog responsibilities and created new possibilities for autism safety planning. Milo's response represents the highest level of autism service dog training, explained autism specialist Dr. Amanda Foster. His ability to assess the emergency, alert bystanders and coordinate human helpers saved Ethan's life through sophisticated communication and leadership skills. The incident was featured in autism safety education programs and service dog training curricula, highlighting how specialized animal training could create community-wide emergency response networks when autism-related behaviors created dangerous situations. Milo proved that autism service dogs can serve as emergency coordinators who mobilize human helpers when traditional supervision methods are overwhelmed by autism-related crises, observed service dog trainer Dr. Robert Kim. The rescue created lasting relationships between the Rodriguez family and the strangers who had responded to Milo's emergency coordination, building community connections that enhanced ongoing safety for Ethan and other children with autism in the downtown area. "We exchange contact information with everyone who helped," David Rodriguez explained. "Now we have a network of people who understand autism and know how to help if emergencies happen in the future." The incident led to improved autism awareness training for downtown businesses and enhanced emergency response protocols for situations involving children with developmental disabilities who might require specialized intervention techniques. Ethan's rescue contributed to expanded autism safety education and improved urban planning that considered the needs of families with special needs children who required additional support during community activities. Milo's coordination showed us how community members can become part of autism safety networks, explained Denver Emergency Services Director Lisa Martinez. "We've incorporated his techniques into our training programs for first responders and community volunteers." The case also influenced service dog training standards and autism emergency response protocols throughout Colorado and other states with significant urban populations. Following the downtown rescue, Milo's protective behaviors toward Ethan became even more sophisticated, with enhanced ability to predict and prevent situations that might trigger dangerous autism responses in urban environments. "Milo seems to understand that he successfully coordinated a life-saving emergency," observed Maria Rodriguez. His confidence and leadership abilities have increased, and he's even better at managing Ethan's autism-related challenges. Ethan's trust in Milo deepened following the rescue, with improved regulation and reduced anxiety during community outings where he understood that his service dog could keep him safe even in overwhelming environments. 5 years after Milo's emergency coordination saved his life, Ethan had developed improved urban navigation skills and enhanced safety awareness, supported by his service dog's continued presence and the community network that had formed around their rescue experience. Milo taught me that helpers come when you need them, 11-year-old Ethan explained during an autism awareness presentation. He knows how to tell people when I need help, and they always come to help us. Their story continued to inspire autism safety programs and demonstrate the remarkable potential of service dogs whose specialized training could mobilize entire communities. When autism-related behaviors created emergencies that required coordinated response beyond what families could manage alone, Milo had proven that some emergency coordination systems came with 4 legs, specialized training, and the kind of communication skills that could turn strangers into lifesavers when autism created crisis situations that required immediate community-wide intervention. I still think about that Denver afternoon when a 6-year-old boy with autism ran into busy traffic while his parents watched helplessly, knowing that their desperate calls couldn't penetrate the sensory overload that drove their son towards certain death at an intersection where drivers couldn't stop in time for a small child who couldn't understand danger. If Milo had lacked the sophisticated training to coordinate human helpers, if he'd been unable to communicate autism emergency to strangers who became instant protectors, if he'd been anything less than a professional who understood that this crisis required mobilizing an entire city block, Ethan Rodriguez would have died in traffic while help remained scattered and unorganized around him. Milo's story teaches us something profound about how specialized service dog training can create emergency response networks that turn ordinary citizens into coordinated rescuers when autism-related behaviors overwhelm traditional safety systems. This dog didn't just alert people to danger. He organized a complex emergency operation that included traffic management, human barriers, and therapeutic intervention, proving that some of our most sophisticated emergency coordinators walk on 4 paws and never stop working to protect those who need them most.